lovely late breakfast on this wonderfully unemployed day. Um, and my cannabinized brain um, was working something pretty good out, and so I thought I'd share um, something that's got a little bit more cohesive eloquence to be said about something that everybody knows upon any level of research. So, the Fremen, like they're like they're it may not just be the Jews, but it may be Arabic people. It may just kind of like look at the whole region in a certain way. Um, right. And so all that symbolism is pretty obvious for most people to see on its face. Right. Um, but of course, there's a whole lot more to the Arabic to it because there's a lot of Arabic words, not Jewish words. But there's is Semitic involved, and the Orange Catholic Bible is a mythological version of the Bible that exists in the universe at this point in history, and so um, and there's never been a depiction of a cross in the various interpretations that I remember. And I'd have to go back and watch the other Dune series. And of course, I'm only like a little bit over halfway through Children of Dune in the book. So I have yet to hear an outright discussion about Jesus Christ or the description of churches or something like that in any reference to the past that the God Emperor may care to uh, utter in his 1,000 year fucking reign. Um, but anyway, so I'm coming from a little bit of ignorance, so I'm letting you know that I'm not going to speak upon ignorance, but Tolkien is on the record saying that dwarves are largely based on Jews. Um, the Fremen have a council called the Hajj, and the Hajj is, taken directly from Islam and things that is part of the political aspects of Islam. I don't look like Christ. What happened is that in order to radicalize my ancestors, the Normans, they took the likeness of the Norman people, uh, which which was similar to Cicero the Borgia, right? So there were various different depictions of Jesus that looked like Cicero de Borgia, which was the appeal for the Italic peoples to keep the fragments of Roman culture alive in the aftermath of the Christian destruction of the empire. Um, and Christianity was picking up steam and getting radical in Gaul. And so um, by the time the Norman Crusades had come around, Jesus looked like a Norman. And then the Shroud of Turin, which was been re-time stamped to the Crusades era, it's a face of a Norman man, and I am a Norman man. Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm an ancestor of Crusaders um, and Templars, and that means jack shit to me in this lifetime. but it is the namesake that I carry, which you can find out by like, sharing, and subscribing to my channel and exploring my content where at times I divulge my name given to me by my parents under government registry. How about that? We'll call it that. because like, you can honor the name your parents gave you. It's an unfortunate choice they made to give that name to the government. And that's how I feel about it as an anarchist that wants my nation to exist. All right. How much you are high. I live in the American Northeast in a weed legal state. So I'm as high as I petitioned to be. Thank you for asking. I enjoy my life. This is what freedom sort of looks like. I could do better economically, but that's not the Jews' fault. It's not even anybody else's fault but mine. That's one of the greater jokes of the universe after you get over it. And suffering 2020 got me over it. I am the product of what happens when you make the right choices in 2020, unlike the herd. And it terrifies people because it embarrasses them and it shames them. You should like, share, and subscribe to my fucking channel because I have wisdom. And when I'm wrong, I'm at least funny about it. Okay? All right. So, and I got lots of friends that make fun of me, but they're my fucking friends because they make fun of me properly. Okay? I have very, very specific standards that I believe are universally understood that involve a chance to take back what you said until it reaches a certain understanding. Then I have no tolerance. Anyway, so Tolkien said that the dwarves are Jews. The dwarves have their downfall, but it's perceived completely under a lens of empathy. And everybody loves the dwarves. You know, even the like people have a hard time hating, the king under the mountain who fucking fell to Smaug, right? It's and all of that has a Jewish mythological bend to it. So don't tell me that you love Tolkien and have incredible compassion for the dwarves in his story and be an anti-Semite. You're a fucking liar. You're a fucking liar. You've been lying to yourself for ages because you think we should nationalize the American oil industry or something like that because you're a socialist. Man, I'm getting a lot of hearts from just 9 fucking people. Thank you, whoever the hell is love bombing me like that. Appreciate it. It's not every day a man just goes live like me and says something worth it. Off the cusp. I'm not just high, man. I'm also drinking a lot of mushrooms, and not those kinds of mushrooms, but I have done a heroic dose of some of the best shit on earth, and possibly got an upgrade from an angel. Okay, so thank you. I'm not special. I just do the fucking work. That's all it is. Just like everything else, as it is here, it is above and below. All right? 3 aspects. You're always the center point. UFC S fighter, would you rather have $20 million or be 20... Ooh. Huh. Well, I'd have to be 20 years younger, let's just say genetically speaking. Sure. Yeah, man, because shit. I really tortured myself living a different way. This was not me 5 years ago. Okay? Um, like I said, I stopped making a lot of bad decisions at the same time through the pandemic. And the only people that talk about the pandemic are the people that grew in the pandemic. Everyone else is just riddled with so much shame that they want to forget the kind of fucking soul they had made themselves out to be for 2 years. And so they just want to get past it. They fucking hate themselves a little bit. And they've done so much damage that they've really created some bitter and radicalized fucking people. And unfortunately, the dark sorcerers, listen, they knew that the anti-Semitism was going to be unstoppable. They at least wanted you to get it wrong. And that's why they forced the Epstein files. Right? Because now you have contextless evidence that is not going to sound the way you think it does in your head. It's going to create the hardest fucking job in the universe for a jury of peers, because everybody is just trying to stitch the president of the United States to the evidence, and justice does not work through reverse engineering. You're supposed to build from what you have established actually is until you've reached the causation of the crime. And it has to have been an actual crime to have existed. And the terrifying understanding of people that are not going to ever see justice because of the preconditions, because of this diabolical bullshit that we just fucking forgot about. And when did this fucking start in America? Right? What did it look like in colonial times? Did because it definitely would have come in. It must have been here. It must have been here. And it would have comfortably hidden within the slave trade system. So anybody that was of the slave economy was a professional human trafficker. So that's a business model with an entire thought thing, right? And those that are associated with the Berbers, and or the burgers, excuse me, the bourgeoisie. It's where we get the word bourgeoisie, is from the burgers class. The burgers class is part of that naval economy that was built, and its primary veins was human trafficking, legal human trafficking we called the slave trade. Right? This business model was entrusted to them. Bear with me a second here. All right. But at the end of the day, it's you're blaming them. Maybe they're blaming you. Maybe they walked into humanity interested in slaves, right? But the thing is, it's that at the top level, the agenda is both to create a false dichotomy with those that have scapegoated the ones that we accept as what is called the Jews. right? And the history of figuring out who is of these sacred bloodlines for just this blind idea about what religion is, right? Um, and what it means to exist with a whole group of people that believe that they are a race that must worship a god that dictates their lives this way. There's a lot of people that aren't Jews that probably wish they could escape being known as a Jew because they haven't learned that they're of Turkish descent yet, right? They don't understand the Khazarian flip of the script, which has been a primary use, and it was developed um, largely by the Nazis. So this is also why there's no female dwarves in Tolkien mythology, really. For the same reason, right? They have that same relationship. They did the same fucking thing with another noble race. Now that I think about it, in the Mass Effect series, um, I forget what their race is called. Um, and but they're kind of like a snapping turtle hominid type, and they're fucking awesome, ferocious, charging fighters. Uh, Ridiculous level of armor class, natural armor class, and they have a genetic defect in their population where their women are dying, so they're cherished real hardcore, and they've got that fucking, they're wearing the veil and shit, and they're pulling off that culture, and they have a scientific reason why they're doing it. Get it? A scientific reason for their religion. They're using this genetic science to justify your Jewish identity, right? And if you don't have that, then you can't you like, there are people that are living by the Talmud to different degrees because they're looking at their family and saying, if we live by this system, we can register with the government for free money. And so they have a whole agreement based on their hallucination that they belong to this god, and in order to serve that god, they must belong to this government, and therefore we must have a loophole to have the economy to establish our own internal personal government. And we'll have a bazillion children to make sure we have enough men to be the security officers for our establishment, and have enough women to grow our population, and yada yada yada, right? And once you kind of realize that, which is what the New Jersey thing has exposed, it's a little bit terrifying. Like it's not. I'm not picking on the Jews. Why? Like, I'm a Norman. Why couldn't I fucking do that with a bunch of fucking Normans? And we a bunch of Normans got together, right? I'm okay. Like, you got to be working though. Studying the Torah is not fucking quote work. All right. You can't be having this many kids by your laws just because you enrich our culture by practicing your law. Like, no, that's not how that fucking works, right? And I wonder how much money that goes to Israel doesn't even go to this lustrous military that it's for. What if it's just for all of that? And really, their military is a show, and it's all just America, which would make fucking sense if we're repeating the Roman times. I am trying to save the Jew. Do you understand me? Oh my god, because just like it's it's a collective crime on a spiritual level that's been perpetrated on a people to take a fucking fall, and to be, or to be a false, um, messiah, and things like that, right? Um, but you do get certain advantages, because of what's included in your education, as well as the tradition of how mothers and fathers are grooming you, the good parts that involve, how you are, um, a successful and influential person of consequence in the world, right? Um, but that doesn't mean you apply that under good moral code that I can trust, right? And that's why people are, fucking pissed off at Israel. You have a right to be pissed off, but and you have a right to be pissed off at Israel's ignorance, but you're just pissed off at your own ignorance. Right, there's a lot of irrational people that were designed to sound all Ku Klux Klan redneck Hitler, right? And fucking just disgust you from the whole conversation. Um, that's why I love my Canadian Costa Rican buddy Bruce McDonald, who, has the exact same attitude about the Jews that I do, right? I protected him from that, and, it's, given him an amazing clarity on the situation, because I just reminded him about, like, dude, we have to be able to go into something much more meaningful than just the gloss over of the quote Jews, right? But also, it wasn't time yet, right? But unfortunately, also, like I said, what they did with the Epstein files, was to fuck up how things work in the courts, and by the entire manner of behavior, everybody on the left and the right that, is concluding their conclusions based on what the Epstein files have produced without the context of what is or isn't even fucking doctored fucking print, doctored fucking photographs and video. You don't know. Like, there's been plenty of time for AI since that shit came out to fucking get a nice, clean fucking insert of Donald Trump's fucking whole goddamn body lit properly to the fucking scene and everything else, and then have it pass a test with 8 people that suspiciously died of pneumonia. Like, what the fuck you want from me? I don't know how this, if any of that happened. I'm just saying, like, that's how little you were fucking paying attention before you found out all the people that you love and know are fucking child cannibal rapists. And you are right to be fucking angered and horrified by that. I knew it on better proof than the Epstein files that you didn't understand the validation of it, and now a lot of people are trying to catch up with those that are saying, yeah, like, everybody gets it now. Here's how we actually prove that all of this is a reality somewhere, right? Not that the exact facts, I'm not saying that the facts are the reality, but this is a thing that does exist. There's proof that it exists and that Epstein is a part of it, but the exact connective tissue isn't legally binding yet. And it may never be now. Unless there was a secret strategy to get it out a certain way because they needed the public opinion to shift to make certain prosecutions. Right? Because they need to be able to look at things themselves and see if they can sell their nitpicked evidence. Right? These are vultures picking apart the dignity of America. I'm a nationalist, and I believe in the free market. I am not a capitalist. I'm not a communist. I just believe in the free market, voluntarism, um, and within the nation, uh, a sense of civil anarchy, peaceful civil anarchy under that kind of free market system. If I don't know what to say. We can have a discussion about what laws ought to go on top of capitalism. But anyway, so the Fremen, unlike the dwarves, however, they are a much more complicated dynamic organism that hits the same familiar beats that all imperial civilizations do. Um, whether that is a permanent decline or just an ebb and flow that it's going through, right? Um, you have to ease on the chains of fascism within your nation's choice of how it conducts its organized affairs, which unfortunately has ends up being government every single time that we know of since we lost our kind of tribal animism ability, right? And so they don't want a whole lot of people, living rural. Not a whole lot. And it's tough to do. Which is why the homestead movement people are very cool. Anyway, the Fremen, you get that intense aura of the Middle Eastern culture. And the understanding of their value set in accordance with their environment in the whole nine yards. And Vilvenu better than anyone else has captured um, what the Fremen are, right? Because he knew what he was doing with his casting choices, right? And I expected it to roll exactly the way that it did, where everybody's brown, but the outsider, right? Um, and the Chani character, she's half white or whatever because her father in the book, mother in the movie, and it works and it's fine. Um, especially if we're considering um, representing something Jewish in the movie storytelling and what the mother line means in Jewish um, genetics following the bloodlines as the women in their culture do. Oh, Cameron Rich Yeah, gay angel. It's all good, man. Look, hey, listen. I don't want to be hit on by the gays, but the gays can watch. They can watch. They can be professional conducting adults. You know, treat me like one of those um, high class hoes that don't want to be talked to by you, right? Don't talk to me unless it's all professional and shit. I'm not hanging out at the mixer, all right? I mean, maybe as long as everybody agrees to not mingle with me at the mixer. Just talk. We're not mingling. We're. It's like nobody gets the wrong impression. I don't need your drunk friends accidentally assuming that I want one on the lips. I don't. But it's okay. If I play well with the gays, that's fine. They may not like me though. So, they make the point with the Fremen that they have Fremen in the South that are more hardcore. They're fundamentalists. And I can't remember if they use the word fundamentalist in the book, I but it was definitely implied um, in terms that are the same characteristics in the definition of fundamentalist, if that makes any sense. So, but the movie, in Villeneuve's movie, he makes that point, right? Like, you don't get, like, the Fremen don't have good aura in the Lynch film, right? Um, because they don't get a chance to act like um, Arabic cultured people. They're acting like Greco-Romans, right? Which is fine because of where the Duke is coming from. And when Paul gets into it, but anyway, it's all a manipulation on them anyway, because it's all coming from a script from the Empire in the first place, uh, right? Because I think Frank was very smart. I think Frank did not pretend that he understood women, but he did understand the influence of powerful women on powerful men. I think he must have gotten some sort of glimpse of that by seeing who was in love with who and understanding who she was through having an objective lens of the world and making all the conspiracy connective tissue work, you understand, right? And so he found the pattern that existed within the Jesuit order of asset to the Catholic Church, the ancient inheritance of Rome. And I think that we might end up seeing echoes of Dagonism. I have a feeling that when they reveal this navigator, he's probably going to look a little bit. He's probably going to look like an Innsmouther. I think from what I saw briefly in the trailer, I think we can have. I think Edric is going to probably look like an Innsmouther as his spice mutation. He's probably going to look pretty fucking cool, like weird and cool. I'm looking forward to this alien design of his. So the movie gives you a chance to look at the Fremen as a cultural organism, right? And the two distinct natures of those cultural organisms. Um, the fundamentalists, they live closest to the big worm, right? They kind of consider all the worms Shai Hulud, but that name. I mean, like Frank hasn't given me in Children of Dune yet a name bigger than Shai Hulud to call the worm in reverence in the Fremen tongue. And so, like in David Lynch's, I like what David Lynch said in that Shai Hulud was specifically the biggest worm on Arrakis, which is what came to him in his riding trial and what he rode in to destroy the Empire, or well, to overthrow the Empire, to conquer the Empire and become it. Right? Um, and not even the immediate book Dune Messiah goes over uh the whole like jihad against the um the rebelling side of the Landsrad. um Messiah kind of gives you the aftermath of the war. It skips the whole war, and that can leave your mind to the imagination, right? You could make a like, if people haven't been making video games of the events between Dune and Messiah, you've got plenty of war games to play in this period of time. Plenty of things to do with your freshly God emperored uh, uh, Paul Atreides, running around building the first generation perfect place, right? Paul establishes Dune with a balance of water and fire. It's just the right balance where the worm can thrive further to the south, right? Well, this affects the relationship that the fundamentalists have with Dune, and there are people that don't like any of the change at all, and there are people that have mixed feelings, complicating the unified control of Paul's empire, which then is what takes Aaliyah of the knife and gives her her problems, because she kind of doesn't give a fuck about the worm. She bent her mind completely into the what was it? Caladan was their homeworld. She was gonna turn Arrakis into Caladan. She was gonna irrigate the whole fucking place and make it blue and get rid of the desert altogether, right? Um, and so that's what I'm going through right now in Children of Dune, and the Dune Part Three should be Messiah and Children of Dune put together. Is my imagination. I don't know if it'll go through all of Children of Dune, but I'd imagine they'd want to get to the fall of Aaliyah and the rise of Emperor Leto II, um, as well as concluding Paul's story arc. So, and they definitely throw the sins of the Fremen at you as well, because there are times where they go too far in controlling the people, right? And so a lot of people don't like that, right? And it's further disliked because of Leah, and what she is doing, um, because she's playing a very delicate political game with the Fremen, so that way they don't destroy her by the time they figure out what she's doing. That's what's going on in the book. Um, Gay angel. I mean, if I'm still kind of laughing at that because I'm, like theoretically that's like compliment because obviously I'm like, it's just like I've got such a bright aura. I'm so handsome. I've been called handsome by some women I would not consider liars in that regard. um, but come on now. I'm a guy. I'm ugly. I'm not really handsome. It's just that I'm a kind and postured and cleanly and strong person. And that's all they mean by handsome, right? Because I'm a guy. I'm ugly. All guys are ugly, right? But you can't say that because women have very particular tastes. And the rarest thing of all is to be her particular taste. So when she calls you handsome, you agree. But I don't know if I want you calling me handsome. So you may not call me Angel. Okay? Yeah, I'm just a rambling guy in a pub. So sit down and listen to my stories until you're sick of me. And don't say anything unforgivable. Well, no, of course not. Otherwise, a man would never find love. You have to um, you have to choose to find them attractive because they've finally shown you enough things to make you say, this works for me. I mean, unless you're just assuming the guy is wonderful because the only thing he did was hit all the visual marks and immediate social cues. See, one of the biggest problems is a woman will fall head over heels for you in a fucking day. Um, and um, she'll think she'll understand how like at least the next 20 years of her life are gonna fucking pan out based on that one thing, right? And guys don't fucking think like that, and I don't know if we were ever taught that and forgot it. Um, but it tends to make you accidentally rude and not understanding all of those little bits and pieces. And it becomes part of the things that make the woman so upset that she will forget how smart you are, and now you're not only ugly, but you're also dumb. You're stupid and you're ugly. And this is just not something any guy needs to hear without constructive criticism. And there's just some forms of constructive criticism that are not a woman's place to say, but if the man doesn't know any better, then that man can't help the man that needs to hear it. So, in the culture presented for dwarves and Fremen, it's it's showing you these patriarchal systems, right? There's plenty of male and female elves in Tolkien's universe, and it's implied that there are male and female elves in all mythology, um, but there's, at least with Norse and Germanic mythology and whatnot, um, the female elves are in the background, kind of tucked away, and everything is about the male elves. The female elves exist, but they stay in a protected place in Midvalir. There's an old Chinese saying, "A man is never judged by his looks." It means that a man should live by his wisdom rather than his appearance. I simply say that wisdom matters more. Oh, thank you, man. That's I appreciate that. I wish, I'm gonna pin that message. I like that. I what is the phonetic pronunciation of your name, brother? I cannot read those Chinese caricatures or even name which Chinese caricatures I'm looking at. There's an old Chinese saying, "A man is never judged." Yes, you. Oh, I'm sorry. That's just the pin showing up. Anyway, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. See, like that's. I didn't know there was a Chinese saying, right? So is that a proverb? It sounds like I would call it a Chinese quote proverb, right? We'll go with that because I want to. And the Chinese proverb is something that I understood without knowing its existence, right? So this has been my point. If you go back on my channel and you see where I'm reading Flavius Josephus's Jewish War, as I'm reading through the story, I'm saying, okay, like this all sounds like it's what's going on with the men. What are the women doing? What are the women saying? What are the women of mentioned? Why hasn't a woman been named yet? Are there women of consequence that happen anywhere along the fall of this fucking civilization, among their struggles? Was there no no one cared to mention uh like not even the queen, right? Half the reason why we don't understand what's happening to us is because we don't know how to talk to the other gender, or the at least the other gender from different cultures, right? Different women have different ideas in their mind about conduct and respect and what is or isn't an insult, right? Um, and that becomes a big problem in America when you're like an insular kind of like person who's like a white man protected by white life, right? I'm not trying to sound like a horribly woke person. I'm not, but there's a truth here that can be thought of in another way. Um, you know, they're working with the best available information to understand what's going on in a world that didn't teach him how to think because he's of the boomer or the Generation X class or whatever, where you wouldn't even, uh, you know, didn't even take the time to learn how to research a thing or two on the internet. And granted, that doesn't mean because you researched it on the internet, have a wider breadth of the information that you even got it right. But, you know, you have to be able to operate from a bit of a Socratic doubt method, right, on yourself. Um, Keeping a baseline of Socratic doubt in a lot of things helps you. When you got your foundation, you got your foundation. I have my foundation. There's things I can speak foundationally upon. So, um, the chief instance that will cause a fall of your civilization is if you've lost integrity with with the opposite sex of your own kind, on because it's a communication breakdown, a very serious problem, right? And having a good and healthy relationship will also know about not just talking and listening to each other, but hopefully being able to understand that you're trying to help them find a healthy boundary, and that the no is not trying to cut down the new expression they are exploring, right? So um, it's also the question of men don't understand how women get compromised in the social collective because a woman's focus is just very, very, very different, right? Um, you know, I would recommend my Jewish friends Emily Moyer and Danny Katz. Listen to them. They're two Jewish gals who they know what their own kind does. They know about quite a few things. They're quite good, um, and they talk. Believe me, they have a very they do kind of this interesting flow state. It's you have to enjoy their girl time. It's their show together on Emily Moyer's channel, right? You can go listen to them and listen to some of their stuff where they get into it, about the Jews, right? Um, Jewish conspiracy, so like I always think of her. It's just like, would Emily Moyer understand what I am saying? Because I like how Emily Moyer like talks about her own kind of people, that understanding. We're not trying to fucking go after everybody, but just like any people, they go through their rise and their fall. But it's just that the globalist agenda has been pinned on those that they have scapegoated this, right? And so I have been trying to have a long, complicated, thorough conversation about that. And I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be a weird time listening to me, right? So for this period of time, understand that the astrology transits are funky and wonky. And that's what it's going to be like with me, because Uranus is going to be crossing Gemini, and it's going to transit my Venus. And so everything's going to be really weird. Everything's going to be really weird. And I'm going to have to figure out how it works, because fighting it is the only way it doesn't work. Figuring out how you play with it is the only thing that's going to keep you alive, especially if you've got a Venus transit um, in this period of time. This is going to be a real test of my um, my relationship integrity, right? My market integrity. And I have to take the best advantage of it. So anyway, I am going to get on with my day, and let's try not to dehumanize the world in the process of what we think we ought to do to solve some problems. All right, catch you later.